There are checks on Congress, there are checks on the executive branch. My question is this: what are the checks on the judiciary? Let's just say, for example, that these unelected judges just decide, let's take every single Trump action, bar none, and just declare it illegal, at least illegal for now. Now Trump is free to run through the appellate process, make his way to the Supreme Court, but that's going to take a long time. So we essentially paralyze the presidency for the better part of the first year through this strategy. What checks exist to make sure that the judiciary can't do that?
Well, the main two checks on the judiciary is, one, just explicitly passing a law or instead creating a constitutional amendment that makes it very hard for the judge to argue that the Constitution is being violated. The other one is obviously to impeach the judge. And at this point, even though that is the real check on the judiciary branch, we impeach basically no judges and have it for quite a long time. So we have not really been using the check on the judicial branch for many, many decades. And you can tell because the judicial supremacy really has arisen in many of these instances. Ultimately, it really matters as to whether or not the judges in question feel like they're going to get any kind of pressure, any kind of pushback, any kind of consequence. Because at this point, it really is clear that their intention is to bend or break the law, make up whatever interpretations they need to in order to, again, obstruct the president in the continuance of his Article 2 duties. And that simply can't stand. So you need to have some kind of plan. But unfortunately, in our current modern narrative framework, the basic check on the judiciary of impeaching a judge would be seen as some kind of a dictatorial move. That would be the narrative sold by the left. Oh, the Republicans are impeaching a judge because he's out of control. No, they're impeaching him because he's restricting Trump. And so this is paving the way for more and more fascism.
I mean, it's obviously a huge relief that the Supreme Court is leaning our way 5-4 or perhaps 6-3 in some cases. But it's kind of terrifying to comprehend that if this were not the case, let's say it were a Democratic Supreme Court, we would almost have no recourse in this situation, would we? I mean, I know that there are some MAGA activists who are like, well, Trump should just, ignore the judge. What can he do? He can't go and get those illegals back from Venezuela. Let him try, quoting Andrew Jackson. Now, the judge has made his decision. Let's see him enforce it. Ha, ha, ha. But what do you think of this strategy, which, quite honestly, I'm deriding it a little bit, but Lincoln used it. I mean, when Lincoln was elected, he ignored the Dred Scott decision. He followed it to the degree that Dred Scott, the slave, went back to his master, but Lincoln refused to enforce the decision beyond that particular case. And we see here that these judges, they may have 2 or 3 plaintiffs in front of them, but they are applying their rulings sort of nationwide and to an entire group of people. Bring all the Venezuelans back. You can't fire anybody who's at USAID. So they're painting with a very broad brush. And it seems that I'm sure the Trump DOJ is trying to figure out, how do you deal with this judicial strategy?
And that really is the very important question on the books at this moment. Because like I said, I think they were prepared this time for the bureaucratic opposition. But it seems that they were not as, I know that they know that there was going to be legal challenges, but I don't know if they knew the degree to which we would see judges across the country suddenly decide that they are actually the ones who can do things like direct troop movements on behalf of the United States military. And so you really are in a bind. Once again, it's in a way, it's a public relations war, because these judges are ready to throw away precedent. They're ready to throw away the actual rule of law. These judges are not concerned ultimately with maintaining the credibility of their office. Their first priority is to attack Donald Trump. And like you said, it's very important that there's a backstop of the Supreme Court. You can thank the pro-life movement for that, by the way. Everybody who has been deriding that, while that court is going to be very useful for other things besides pro-life, you wouldn't have that court without the pro-life issue. So that is very important to remember as we address this. But ultimately, the Trump administration is going to have to find a way to battle through this narrative that they are against the rule of law or they're against justice. This is going to be what the Democrats are selling, that Trump is a dictator, that Trump ignores the rule of law, that he throws away judges, that he blows past this. And ultimately, you have to recognize that you should probably take the court rulings that you can and win those. You should live with the ones that you can live with. But if you must take lawful action and you have irresponsible judges taking the kinds of actions they're taking, then you need to do the best to do what the American people elected you to do. You think about Joe Biden bragging over and over again about how he was violating Supreme Court rulings and forgiving student debt anyway, right? This is not a problem for the left. They do not care about the violation of court rulings. They just care if their agenda gets done.
Tariffs have admittedly thrown the global economy into some chaos. Potential widespread inflation tied to massive supply chain disruption is weighing heavily on the economy. But there's a silver lining that a lot of people have missed. President Trump specifically exempted gold and silver bullion from these sweeping tariffs. And that's good news. Policies are triggering significant financial chaos, but the administration has preserved your ability to diversify into precious metals. If you're concerned about your savings, I encourage you to have a free consultation with a Birch Gold precious metals specialist. The first step is to text my name, Dinesh, to 989898. You get a free, no obligation information kit on gold. Learn how to hold gold and silver in a tax-sheltered account. Birch Gold will help you to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a gold IRA for no money out of pocket. Debbie and I buy our gold from Birch Gold. Isn't it time you did too? Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. So go ahead, text my name, Dinesh, to the number 989898.